My name is Maya Hartley, and I'm 30 years old. If you passed me on the street, you probably wouldn't look twice. I'm not the type who screams for attention. I work hard, I mind my own business, and I like my life quiet in all the places that matter. The loudest thing about me is my car. A few weeks before everything exploded, I finally bought something I'd been dreaming about for years. A Dodge Hellcat. Not a rental, not a loaner, not a midlife crisis toy on payments I couldn't afford. Mine. Paid for with too many overtime shifts, side projects, and saying no when everyone else said yes. It's loud, sure. The kind of engine that turns heads whether you want it to or not. But to me, every rumble sounds like my grandparents and parents and me stacked on top of each other saying, "We built this." When I started seeing Eric, 27, I didn't even mention the Hellcat at first. We'd been dating for about 2 months. He'd only ever seen my old car, the one I still used for commuting. I wasn't hiding anything. I just already knew how much he cared about appearances. Eric was handsome and knew it. Sharp jaw, perfect hair, that easy smile that looked rehearsed but still worked on most people. He could be charming when he wanted to be. He could also slice people in half with a single joke. I noticed it early, the way he graded everyone. The first time it bothered me, we were at this casual burger place I loved. Vinyl booths, neon sign, the kind of spot where the fries taste like childhood. Our waiter brought drinks to the table, balancing 4 glasses on one hand like it was nothing. Eric's eyes went straight to the guy's wrist. The waiter was wearing one of those worn leather strap watches, the kind you keep because it means something, not because it impresses anyone. Eric leaned in and murmured, "You'd think people in customer service would at least try to look successful." I remember almost choking on my fries. "You realize you just insulted the guy making our food, right?" I said. He laughed, light and dismissive. "Oh, come on, I'm just saying, presentation matters." That's how it always was with him, covered in a thin layer of just saying. Another time, we carpooled to a group hangout, and my friend Jason pulled up in his old Corolla. The thing rattled like a shopping cart, but it ran, and Jason loved that car. Eric rolled his eyes so hard I thought he'd see his own brain. "That's what he drives?" he muttered. He muttered. You'd think a grown man could afford something that doesn't sound like a lawnmower. I remember looking at him and saying, "You realize you're riding in my decade-old sedan right now?" He didn't even blink. "Yeah, but you're different," he said. "You're going somewhere." It sounded like a compliment. It felt like a warning. Then there was the coworker story. Eric worked at some marketing firm, one promotion away from thinking he ran the company. One night he came over and spent 30 minutes ranting about a coworker's trash taste. "She showed up with this discount handbag," he scoffed. "I swear, if you're going to be in my industry, at least try not to look regular." I remember asking, "What does discount even mean to you?" Like not designer, not luxury, just basic. "You know she probably makes more than you, right?" I said. His smile froze for half a second. "You don't get it," he murmured, tilting his head and softening his voice. "You wouldn't understand what it feels like to want more." That line stuck with me, because I do understand wanting more. My family started with dirt under their nails and nothing in their pockets. My great-grandparents were farm workers. My grandfather bought his first bit of land acre by acre. My dad turned that into a small property business. I turned it into a stable, quiet life. We didn't inherit luxury. We built stability. There's a difference. So when Eric mocked people for not looking rich enough, it didn't just sound shallow. It sounded like an insult to my entire history. But when you're dating someone new, you ignore a lot of things you shouldn't. Then came the night that ended it. We met for dinner at a nice restaurant downtown, the kind with soft lighting and a hostess who says your name like it's on a list that matters. Valet-only parking, white napkins, herbs in your water for no good reason except to spell expensive. Dinner was fine. Conversation surface level, a few laughs, nothing explosive. Eric talked about his dream of becoming a rich, stay-at-home trophy husband where he only spends money and looks good. Half joking. Not really. I smiled and let him talk. It wasn't worth a fight. When we walked outside, the air was cool and crisp, city lights reflecting off every polished surface. I handed the valet my ticket. The guy gave a polite nod, jogged off, disappeared for a moment. Then the sound hit. That deep, unmistakable growl of the Hellcat rolling up to the curb. Heads turned, like they always do. The car slid into place in front of us, paint catching the streetlights, engine purring like a controlled storm. Eric's face changed instantly. Not in a wow way, more like someone had just pulled a prank on him. Wait, he said, tilting his head. That's your car? Yeah, I clicked the unlock button. Bought it last month. His laugh was sharp, fake. You're kidding, right? That thing looks like something a college kid would rent for attention. I stared at him for a second. It's mine, I said. Not rented, not borrowed. He blinked, unimpressed. Oh, I just assumed it was a rental. I mean, who actually buys one of those? It's so loud. Kind of embarrassing, honestly. I don't ride in rentals. People stare. He said it like he was allergic to humility. People on the sidewalk could hear every word. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. Something in me just settled. Good thing you're not riding in it then, I said quietly. He frowned. What's that supposed to... I opened the driver's door, slid into the seat, and shut it. The cabin muffled the city noise. Outside, Eric's expression warped from confusion to panic. He stepped closer, hand on the handle. I hit the lock button. He jolted the door. It stayed shut. Maya, his voice sharpened. You're joking, right? Seriously? I shifted into drive. He slapped his palm against the window, face flushed red. Open the door. Stop acting immature. People were openly staring now. A couple near the entrance paused mid-conversation. One of the valets stood frozen, keys dangling from his hand. Eric banged on the glass again. You are being ridiculous. Don't make a scene. The irony almost made me laugh. He was the scene. I looked at him through the glass, calm in a way that felt almost unnatural. Have a good night, Eric. Then I rolled forward. I caught a glimpse of him in the side mirror, standing on the sidewalk in his carefully chosen outfit, arms thrown up, mouth moving in some last desperate argument I couldn't hear over the engine. A valet covered his mouth, trying not to laugh. I didn't feel guilty. I felt done. The drive home was quiet in the strangest way. The Hellcat growled, but my brain didn't. No overthinking, no rehearsed conversations, just a stillness that felt like leaving a bad movie halfway through and realizing you never had to sit there suffering. When I parked outside my place, the street was dark and empty. I sat there for a minute, staring at my own reflection in the windshield, waiting for the familiar buzz of my phone. Right on cue, the screen lit up. What the hell is wrong with you? Are you seriously ditching me downtown? You can't just leave someone like that, you psycho. By the time I kicked my shoes off in my living room, he'd called twice. By midnight, it was 5 times, then 10. I put my phone face down on the nightstand and went to bed. No arguing, no explaining. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer you can give. When I woke up the next morning and finally checked my phone, it looked like a Christmas tree on fire. 21 missed calls, a dozen voicemails, more messages than I cared to scroll through. The first few were furious. I can't believe you'd do that to me. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Then they turned confused. Are you okay? Did something happen? By the end, he'd hit full desperation. I didn't mean what I said. Let's talk. I'm not like that. Please answer. I stared at the screen for a long second, then flipped the phone over again. I didn't miss him. I just felt lighter. As the morning went on, little memories started stitching themselves together in my head. Waiters, watches, handbags, lawnmower cars. The way he said people like that, with his nose slightly wrinkled. I thought about my great-grandparents, hands swollen from work they were never paid enough for. My grandfather turning dirt into equity. My dad turning equity into a business. Me turning that business into stability. And Eric acting like royalty in borrowed crowns. Around noon, I opened my phone, scrolled through his messages, and started deleting. The texts, the call log, the photos. Gone. I wasn't going to play the maybe he'll change game. He'd already shown me exactly who he was, loud and clear. For the first time in weeks, the quiet in my apartment didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I made coffee, answered some work emails, and enjoyed the fact that my phone was finally, blissfully still. But peace has a funny side effect. Once you sit in it long enough, you start to see the mess you haven't cleaned up yet. And in my case, that mess had a name. Eric's rent deal. That afternoon, while my phone sat face down and blissfully quiet, my brain wouldn't cooperate. I was halfway through an email when a thought hit me like a rock in my shoe. The rent. A month before the Hellcat meltdown, there'd been another conversation, one I'd brushed off as helping, one that suddenly felt like a bad decision. We were sitting in this cramped little cafe near Eric's place. Exposed brick, cheap Edison bulbs, baristas who wrote your name wrong on purpose. Eric was in the middle of one of his monologues about how unfair the world was to people with vision. He was staring at his latte like it had personally betrayed him. Everything nice is for rich people, he complained. I can't live in some depressing shoebox, Maya. I hate capitalism. He said it loud enough that the couple at the next table glanced over. I sipped my coffee and stared at him over the rim. You're acting like rent prices are a personal attack. They are, he snapped. I work hard. I deserve something decent. What I wanted to say was, you spend more time posting about your job than doing it. What I actually said was nothing. I just nodded and listened, the way I always did when he wanted sympathy instead of solutions. The truth was, my family owns a small 6-unit building downtown. Nothing flashy. It's one of the leftover properties from my grandfather's old portfolio, the kind no one would put on a brag reel, but everyone appreciates because it never stops paying the bills. An old family friend, Mr. Callahan, manages it for us. He's known me since I was 10, smells like cigarettes and peppermint, calls me kiddo, even though I file his tax paperwork now. So, trying to be helpful, I said, I might be able to get you a place. 1 bedroom, good view, safe area. Eric's eyes lit up like Christmas. For real? How much? When I told him the normal rate, his face twisted. That's insane. I can't pay that. I have other priorities. Right. Other priorities, like the shoes he'd just bought that cost more than my first car. I didn't owe him anything, but I pulled out my phone anyway. Let me make a call, I said. Mr. Callahan picked up on the second ring. This better not be about plumbing again, he grumbled, talk radio buzzing in the background. Hi to you too, I said. It's Maya. Oh, hey kiddo, you sound serious. What's up? I've got a potential tenant, I said, glancing at Eric, who was pretending not to eavesdrop while very obviously eavesdropping. Friend of mine, tight budget, any wiggle room on a 1-bedroom? On the other end, I heard him sigh. For you? Maybe I can shave a bit off. But just this once. I can't turn the building into a charity. I know, just this one, I promised. We worked out a discount. $400 off the market rent, noted in the lease as a temporary courtesy adjustment, with a clause that it could be revoked with 30 days' notice. I hung up and looked at Eric. Good news. We can get you in. Below market, actually. His mouth fell open. You're serious? Completely. He grinned like he'd just won a game he didn't play. I knew it. I knew things would work out for me. See? This is what I mean. I'm meant for more than some depressing box. I remember saying very clearly, this is a favor, Eric. Please don't make me regret asking. He put his hand over mine, eyes soft, voice dipped low. Maya, you won't. I swear. I'll take this seriously. He broke that promise before the ink on his lease was dry. Within a week, he was bragging about his deal, like he'd negotiated it personally. He told friends the owners liked him and wanted him in the building because he raised the place's image. He complained when the water pressure wasn't spa level. He sent Mr. Callahan long, rambling texts about how the sunlight in the living room wasn't flattering. I should have canceled the discount right then, but when you care about someone, you keep cushioning their landings. Until you don't. Back in my kitchen, standing barefoot on cold tile with my coffee cooling in my hand, it hit me. I was still cushioning him, even after he called my car embarrassing, even after he humiliated himself banging on my window, even after 21 missed calls. He was sleeping in a bed my family's work paid for. That was a wire that needed cutting. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to Mr. Callahan's number. He answered with his usual grumble. If this is about the boiler, It's not the boiler, I said. Hi, Mr. C. It's Maya. His tone softened immediately. Hey, kiddo. You okay? You sound colder than usual. I'm fine, I said. I just need to talk about a tenant, Eric Marsh, Unit 3B. He chuckled, a dry smoker's laugh. Ah, the prince. That your boyfriend? Was, I said. We're done, and so is the discount. There was a beat of static from his radio, then a low whistle. Knew it wouldn't last. He's been a headache since day one. Always something. Water pressure, noise that doesn't exist, the color of the hallway walls. That sounds about right, I said tightly. Can you bump him back up to full rent? Easily. I could hear papers shuffling. His lease has that courtesy clause you told me to include. 30 days notice, effective next cycle. I'll write it up today. A slow, steady satisfaction spread through my chest. Not anger, just cleanup. Perfect, I said. Mr. Callahan hesitated. You sure you're okay? I'm more okay than I've been in a while, he grunted approvingly. Good. That's how grown-ups handle things. Clean up and move on. I'll post the notice today. Rent goes up next month. Thanks, Mr. C. I owe you. Nah, he said, a smile in his voice. You already paid me back when you didn't date my grandson. I snorted. Tempting, though. He at least likes discount handbags. Exactly why I like you better, he said, then hung up. By the time I put my phone down, the tension between my shoulder blades had eased. One more loose wire tucked away. For a couple of hours, life went back to normal. I worked, I ate, I answered emails. My phone was quiet. Then, around 7 p.m., it started. First, a text. Did you seriously just raise my rent? I stared at it for a moment. I hadn't, actually. I'd just stopped shielding him from reality. Before I could decide whether to answer, another message came. Are you kidding me? You're so petty. I can't afford that right now. Then, wow, you're doing this on purpose. You're not even a real landlord, Maya. You're just playing power games. I scrolled once, exhaled, and set the phone down on the counter like it was something fragile. Then came the voicemail. His voice blared through my speaker, shrill and dramatic, like a bad reality show confession. You think this is funny? You're trying to ruin my life over a stupid argument? You're pathetic, Maya. Pathetic. In the same breath, his tone flipped. You're making a huge mistake. We could have worked it out. I said things I didn't mean. You're overreacting. I let the message play all the way through, then hit delete. Outside my window, the night hung still and indifferent. The Hellcat sat neatly in its spot, metal gleaming under the street lamp. Mine. Paid off. Quiet until I decided it wouldn't be. For the first time since the Hellcat, since the missed calls, since the car door pounding, I felt something very close to peace. Not the dramatic movie-ending peace with triumphant music. Just quiet. No calls I had to answer. No arguments I had to untangle. No fake apologies I had to pretend to believe. Just me, my dinner, my car, my boundaries. That peace lasted 3 days. On the fourth morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Ryan, a mutual friend in our circle. Hey, you busy? I wiped coffee from my thumb and replied, not really. What's up? The response came fast. What happened with you and Eric? He's going off in the group chat. Says you ditched him in some sketchy neighborhood at night and you're messing with his landlord now. I stared at the screen, feeling my mouth curve into a slow, humorless smile. Of course, Eric wasn't just losing. He was rewriting the story. Ryan's messages kept lighting up my screen as I sat at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold beside me. He's saying you left him stranded in a dangerous area, and you're retaliating with rent. People are kind of confused. Of course they were. When Eric told a story, he didn't just bend reality. He sculpted it like wet clay until he looked like the tragic hero. I rubbed my temple with my thumb. Dangerous neighborhood? We'd been outside a restaurant where the cheapest entree cost $100. The scariest thing there was the valet's haircut. I typed back, tell him, the sketchy neighborhood was in front of La Meridienne. Ryan immediately sent back a laughing emoji. Yeah, I figured he was exaggerating, but he's really leaning into it. Says you screamed at him and sped off. That part actually made me snort. I didn't scream, and I didn't speed. If anything, I used my turn signal like a responsible adult. He sent, the group's kind of split on what happened. Yeah, because everyone knows Eric is dramatic, but not everyone knows he's delusional. I sat back in my chair, staring at the ceiling for a moment, thinking through my options. I could explain. I could defend myself. I could type long paragraphs like he was doing. Or I could show them. I opened my dashcam app. I always kept it running. Part habit, part precaution when you drive a car loud enough to wake the dead. Sure enough, the footage was still there. The Hellcat pulling up. Eric's face twisting when he realized the car was mine. His mouth forming the words rental and embarrassing. Then the meltdown. Him slapping the door, yelling through the window, demanding I unlock it while strangers watched. The audio wasn't perfect, but it captured enough. Stop making a scene. You're embarrassing yourself. Open this car right now. I trimmed the clip to 40 seconds and sent it to Ryan. No commentary. Just the truth. He opened it instantly. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then, holy crap, Maya. He left all of that out. He made it sound like you screamed at him, but he's the one pounding on the window like a raccoon locked out of a garage. I wrote, I'm done explaining. If anyone wants the truth, they can look at the footage. Ryan replied, I'm posting it in the chat. People need to see this. I didn't ask him to. I didn't stop him either. A minute passed, then 2. Then my phone buzzed so fast it shook across the table. Ryan again. They're losing it. Someone already made a meme. He sent a screenshot. Eric's furious face pressed against my passenger window, veins popping in his forehead. Caption in bold white text. When your ride leaves before your ego does. I actually laughed. Out loud. Alone in my kitchen. Another screenshot came in from Ryan. New nickname in the chat. Hellcat Girl. They're using a little cat emoji in every message. I stared at the screen and shook my head. I never wanted to be a meme, but if life was going to turn me into one, I'd take this version. For the next hour, my phone kept buzzing. Group reactions, shock, disbelief, jokes. Half the chat was dragging Eric. The other half was backpedaling with gentle, "Oh, now this makes more sense," messages. I didn't comment, didn't join, didn't explain. But then a private message popped up. Tara, one of the few people in our group who had a functioning moral compass. Just so you know, Eric's still trying to spin it. Says you're unstable and had anger issues. People are half believing her. Her. A typo. An irony. But it still stung. I typed, "I have receipts." Tara replied with a single raised eyebrow emoji. I scrolled back through my phone and found the screenshot I hadn't bothered to share with anyone yet. 21 missed calls. Time stamped. Rapid fire. All in one sleepless night of panic and entitlement. I cleanly cropped the image. No name, no extra clutter, just the numbers. Then I messaged Tara. "Add me to the group for a second?" She hesitated. "You're really going in?" "Just for 30 seconds. A moment later, she added me. The chat exploded into view. Paragraphs from Eric. People reacting. Several Hellcat emojis spinning like tiny digital fireworks. I waited for the scroll to settle, for everyone's typing bubbles to vanish. Then I dropped it. Just the screenshot. No caption. 21 missed calls. Over 7 hours. Desperation spelled out in digital ink. Silence. Not a single bubble for almost a full minute. Then a message from Max, one of the quiet guys. 21 calls, though. Ryan chimed in. "Doesn't look like someone who was scared. Looks like someone who got caught." Tara added, "You can't claim danger and blow up someone's phone like this. Pick one." 2 others reacted with laughing emojis. Someone reposted the meme. Eric finally typed again. Fast. Frantic. The little gray bubbles flickered on and off for a full 30 seconds. Then, I was worried about her. She was acting strange, and I thought maybe she got in an accident. Tara didn't even wait. "After you yelled at her and hit her car window in public?" "Sure, Eric." He sent, "You're misunderstanding." A meme dropped under it before he could finish. Hellcat girl. When drama speeds off without you. Eric left the group. Then it was quiet. I looked at the screen for another moment. My fingers hovered, then typed. Truth sells itself. And I left the chat too. My phone buzzed moments later. Tara again. "That was beautiful. You didn't even have to say anything." I wasn't planning to, just cleaning up loose threads. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. 2 days later, my sister Lauren called me with a voice sharp enough to cut glass. Not about a meme. Not about Eric. Something worse. Something he took. Something that belonged to her. Lauren never called me twice in a row unless something was seriously wrong. So when my phone lit up with Lauren, 2 missed calls, and then immediately rang again, I answered before the second buzz even finished. "Maya," she said, no greeting, no breath. "Do you remember the Swarovski bracelet I lent Eric for that charity gala?" I blinked. "Barely. The silver one with the crystal chain?" "Yes, that one." Her voice sharpened. "He never gave it back." I rubbed my forehead. "Did you remind him?" "Twice," she snapped. "He left me on red both times." "That sounds like him," I muttered. "He probably forgot." Lauren cut me off. "Forgot? Really?" "Because he posted a photo wearing it on Sunday." I froze. "He what?" I heard paper shuffling on her end, like she was pulling up evidence. A second later, my screen lit with an incoming image. It was a screenshot from Eric's Instagram story. Him at brunch, a mimosa in hand, smiling like happiness was something he could fake on command. And on his wrist, glinting in the sunlight, Lauren's bracelet, front and center, like a trophy. I inhaled sharply. "Oh, he's bold." "He's a thief," Lauren corrected. "That thing cost $600, and it was a gift from Mom. He doesn't get to keep it." I nodded slowly. "You're right, he doesn't." There was silence for a beat. Then Lauren said, voice clipped and dangerous, "We're going over there." "Lauren." "No, we're going. He took advantage of you. He's not doing it to me." When my sister gets protective, she goes full lawyer detective fury mode. It's both terrifying and beautiful. "Give me an hour," she said. "I'm gathering everything." She hung up. 1 hour later, she pulled up in front of my building, window already rolling down before the car even stopped. Her hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, her "I mean business" look. In the passenger seat sat a folder stuffed with documents. "Is that evidence?" I asked as I got in. "Yes," she said, pulling into traffic like the road personally offended her. I printed the purchase receipt, the appraisal, my photos wearing it, and the Instagram screenshot. I raised a brow. "Anything else? Blood samples?" "Don't tempt me." The drive to Eric's building was thick with tension. At one point, Lauren gripped the steering wheel so hard, her knuckles turned white. After everything he's done to you, she muttered, he still thinks he can get away with this? That's his superpower, I sighed. Delusion. We pulled up in front of the apartment building, my family's building, technically. Eric's car wasn't in his designated spot. He's home, I said. Mr. Callahan told me it's been broken down for a week. Lauren grabbed the folder. Perfect. At the door, we buzzed his unit. A second passed. Then his voice crackled through the speaker, suspicious and defensive. Who's there? It's Maya, I said calmly, and my sister Lauren. We need to talk. Silence. Then, about what? About the bracelet, Lauren said, her tone cutting through static like a blade. We know you still have it. Eric's voice tightened. I told you I misplaced it. Lauren held up her phone toward the intercom, showing the Instagram post. You mean the one you wore 4 days ago? A tiny gasp escaped him, barely audible, but it was there. Lauren's eyes narrowed. You can hand it over now, she said, or we can involve the property manager. That was checkmate. Eric despised Mr. Callahan, mostly because Mr. Callahan despised him right back. A long pause. Then, click. The door unlocked. Lauren smirked. Told you. Inside the apartment. When we reached his floor, Eric's door was already cracked open. He stood there, arms crossed, face twisted in a mix of annoyance and humiliation. What do you want now? He snapped. The bracelet, Lauren said simply. His jaw tightened. I said I don't have it. Lauren opened the folder with theatrical precision. Out came the Instagram screenshot. The appraisal. Her original photo wearing the bracelet. This photo, she said, holding the screenshot inches from his face, was posted 4 days ago. Do you really want to insult both our IQs? Eric flinched. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then he spun on his heel and stomped inside. 30 seconds later, he returned with the bracelet clenched in his fist. He tossed it onto the counter like it was a cheap trinket. There, he spat. Happy? Lauren picked it up delicately, inspecting it. Then she smiled, a slow, victorious smile. Ecstatic. Neither of us said another word to him. We just walked out, back in the car. Lauren didn't speak until we hit the first stoplight. Then she exhaled, long and slow. She's lucky I'm civilized. I snorted. She? I'm not wasting pronouns on him right now, she muttered. My vocabulary deserves better. I laughed, harder than I'd laughed in days. When we pulled into a diner, Lauren suddenly veered into the parking lot. We're getting fries, she declared, celebratory ones. Inside, we slid into a booth, ordered, and the moment the waitress left, we burst into hysterical laughter. Lauren wiped her eyes. If I had pulled out one more document, he might have confessed to other crimes. He folded faster than a clearance rack purse, I said. Lauren choked on her water. Stop, stop! By the time we left, the tension was gone. We thought that was the end of Eric. We were wrong. Because the next morning, as I was making coffee, my phone buzzed with a call from Mr. Callahan. And his first words were, guess who's trying to lawyer up? Guess who's trying to lawyer up? Mr. Callahan's voice crackled through my phone speaker, laced with equal parts annoyance and amusement. I didn't need to guess. Let me rephrase, I said. Is it Eric? Bingo, he grumbled. Your boy, former boy, is claiming the rent increase was retaliation. I nearly dropped my mug. Retaliation for what? Being himself? That was my question too, he said. He sent me a 3-paragraph email about emotional distress, power abuse, and unethical conduct by building ownership. I sighed, hard. You replied, how? I quoted Section 4B of his lease. His voice took on that smug, grandfatherly tone he used when he knew he'd won. The clause you asked me to include, kiddo. The one that says the courtesy discount can be revoked at any time with 30 days' notice. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Please tell me you added your trademark sarcasm. I told him the only retaliation happening was his reflection in the mirror. I snorted coffee up my nose. He hung up on me, Mr. C added. Rude kid. The complaints begin. Over the next week, Mr. Callahan kept me updated mostly because, in his words, it was too funny not to share. First, Eric tried filing a complaint with the city's tenant board. Dismissed in 3 days. Lease, airtight. Discount clause, legal. Receipts, immaculate. He'd underestimated the power of a meticulous Irish property manager with 47 years of experience and zero tolerance for nonsense. Next, Eric attempted a social media crusade. A dramatic post on Instagram about toxic men who abuse power and financially punish women. The irony? I was the owner. The one who revoked the discount. A woman. The daughter of the man he kept bragging about to impress people. I guess he didn't think that part through. His post got 3 likes. One from a bot, one from his aunt, one from an account that only posted inspirational quotes with typos. He deleted it within the hour. The rent problem. That Friday, Mr. Callahan called again. He missed rent. Of course he did, I muttered. He can barely keep a thought straight. He told me, Mr. C said, voice dripping with disbelief, I've chosen to move out voluntarily in protest. I barked a laugh. So he's walking out after being shown the door. Pretty much. And since he was month to month, once he gave notice, I processed it immediately. He'll be out by Friday. Good, I said. Less drama in the building. Oh, and kiddo, Mr. C added, a nice couple applied for the unit. They're actually happy to pay the full rate. Imagine that. I rolled my eyes. Wild. The move out. Friday afternoon, curiosity got the best of me. So I took a slow drive by the building. Eric was out front, surrounded by half-filled boxes, overstuffed duffel bags, and 2 suitcases that refused to close. He looked nothing like the polished, image-obsessed man he tried to present online. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. He kept kicking one box like it offended him. A rideshare pulled up. The driver popped the trunk and stared at the chaotic mountain of belongings with visible regret. From where I idled at the curb, the scene was unintentionally poetic. I'd once driven off from him in my Hellcat. Now he was the one stranded, surrounded by baggage, literal and metaphorical. Before I pulled away, I saw him drop a box. Something shattered. He cursed loud enough for me to hear through closed windows. A tiny part of me felt bad. A much bigger part did not. The new place. 2 days later, Ryan texted me. Bro, sorry, force of habit. Maya, you won't believe this. My friend's cousin lives in the same building Eric moved into. I blinked. And? The place is basically old, moldy, smells like a damp towel. Walls thin enough to hear arguments 3 units over. I choked on my tea, laughing. So he left a perfectly renovated building to live in a budget horror movie? Ryan sent, Karma has a sense of humor. I typed back. He always said he deserved a decent place. Looks like the universe upgraded him to character-building poverty. We both laughed in text form for a good 5 minutes. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe he'd fade out of my life like a bad smell eventually does. But the universe wasn't done yet. The grocery store showdown. 4 days later, I ran into him outside a grocery store. Total accident. Timing worthy of a sitcom. I was walking out with 2 paper bags in my arms when I saw him coming up the sidewalk, hoodie pulled tight, expression stormy. He froze, then stomped toward me like an offended duck. You, he hissed. I blinked once. Morning to you too. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You ruined my life. I adjusted my grocery bags. Tell that to the bracelet you tried to steal. You raised my rent, he shouted. You humiliated me. You turned everyone against me. I stepped back slightly, not out of fear, but to keep my eggs safe. Eric, I said calmly, I stopped protecting you from consequences. There's a difference. His voice cracked. I had to move into a place with mold. Mold, Maya. The bathroom leaks. I tilted my head sympathetically. Guess life's teaching you how the other half lives. His eyes watered. You're heartless. No, I said quietly. Just done. People walking by were staring now. Some whispered. One teenager pulled out her phone and pretended not to record. Eric seemed to realize it. He blinked rapidly, tone softening to fragile desperation. You'll regret this, he said. Karma always comes back. Karma already did, I answered. I stepped around him. You're living proof. I walked away, didn't look back. Beautiful quiet. That night, Lauren texted me a photo. Her wrist, the reclaimed bracelet sparkling under her kitchen light. Look who's back home. I smiled and wrote, Hellboy moved into a moldy castle. She sent 10 laughing emojis. For the next couple of weeks, life softened. Quiet mornings, easy drives, no exploding texts, no emotional circus. Just stability. But Karma wasn't done teaching Eric lessons. Not yet, because one random Saturday downtown, coffee in hand, sunlight flickering off storefronts, I saw him again. And this time, he wasn't alone. It was supposed to be a quick errand. Grab a coffee, deposit a check, head home. One of those small, quiet Saturdays that feel like a reset button. I was waiting at a red light downtown, sipping my drink, when a flash of movement across the street caught my eye. A familiar posture, a familiar jawline. Eric. But not the Eric I'd last seen hissing at me outside a grocery store. No hoodie, no frantic energy. This time, he was sitting in the passenger seat of a shiny silver BMW parked in front of a bank. At first, I thought maybe he'd gotten lucky. landed a good job, climbed out of whatever mold-infested dungeon he'd moved into. But then I saw the driver. A man in his mid-50s, divorcee face, expensive watch, suit tailored to say, "I date women half my age and don't see a problem with it." Eric was turned toward him, animated, waving his hands like he was lecturing the man about something extremely important, probably luxury bath towels or Instagram filters. The man suddenly slammed his door shut so hard even I flinched. Eric jerked back in the passenger seat, eyes wide. The older man said something sharp, couldn't hear it, but the anger was obvious in the tension of his shoulders, then marched into the bank. Eric sat frozen, staring straight ahead, like he'd just been scolded on national television. The light turned green. Someone honked behind me. I drove forward, then looped around the block and parked across from the coffee shop. Call it curiosity. Call it closure. Call it petty anthropology. Through the window of the cafe, with warm sunlight spilling across the sidewalk, I could see Eric still sitting in the BMW, shoulders tight, face blank, jaw clenched. He held his phone like it was a lifeline, scrolling with the desperation of someone trying to distract themselves from their own reflection. He wasn't crying. He wasn't shouting. He just looked stuck, repeating the same cycle, different partner, same script. It was like watching a rerun of a show I'd already canceled from my subscription. He hadn't changed. He'd only changed hosts. People like Eric didn't grow. They traded one source of validation for another, hoping no one noticed they were still empty inside. I watched as the man returned from the bank. He leaned into the car window, speaking sharply. Eric threw his hands up, arguing. The man's face hardened. He pointed to the passenger door. I knew that gesture. Get out. Eric didn't move. He stayed planted, arms crossed, defiant and small at the same time. It was the exact same expression he'd worn outside the restaurant the night I drove off in my Hellcat, stunned that the world wasn't bending around him. My coffee had gotten cold. I tossed it and walked back to my car. I didn't approach. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk or say something cutting, even though the universe practically begged for a one-liner. He didn't deserve a line from me. Instead, I climbed into the Hellcat, my Hellcat, and started the engine. The engine's deep growl rolled through the street, warm and alive. Eric once called that sound embarrassing. Funny how peace can sound like power once you remove the person trying to suffocate it. As I pulled out of the parking spot, I saw him through my windshield one more time. Small, furious, humiliated, repeating the same mistakes with a brand new audience. I shifted gears, feeling the engine hum under my hands. Eric kept renting his life, his image, his relationships, his sense of worth. All borrowed, all dependent on someone else's wallet or attention. But me? I built mine, and I owned all of it. Postscript, quiet aftermath. Later that week, Lauren sent me another photo, this time of her wrist wearing the bracelet while holding a glass of wine. Finally got my sparkle back. I texted, "Some things look better when they're actually earned." She sent back, "Cheers to getting rid of parasites." We clinked glasses over FaceTime that night. No drama, no chaos. Just the quiet relief of having our peace restored. And maybe, just maybe, something new beginning. Because a few days later, Ryan had invited me to a group outing. Low-key hangout, he'd said. Nothing fancy. Come if you want. I said yes, not because I needed someone new, but because I was finally free enough to open a door instead of slamming one shut. Closing line. Some people dig their own holes. You don't have to push them in. You just have to stop handing them the shovel.